This evening on JKSSM News, we'll be covering a variety of stories, new and old.
The first story we'll be talking about today is an update on Theodore Roosevelt's implementation on the Meat Inspection Act and how it has affected the meat we eat today. Here's Sam with the story.
Thank you, Sandra. Here we have Mr. Kyle from Meat Incorporated showing us how his product has changed and improved since the Meat Inspection Act passed in 1906.
Thanks for having me, Sam. Thanks to new legislation, we now make sure that all of our cattle are at the utmost quality. So here's one of our cows who's ready to be slaughtered. Would you like to do the honor, Sam?
Oh, why would I? Sweet. Oh, this looks delicious.
Yeah. The Meat Inspection Act was just one of the effects that came from Roosevelt's administration. One major impact Roosevelt had was the legacy and conservation of the environment. Roosevelt himself set 230 million acres of land, 150 of which became land for national parks, such as the Crater Lake National in 1903 and the Wind Cave National in 1902. Keeping up with his idea of protecting social welfare, Roosevelt was instrumental in dismantling the Northern Security Trust led by J.P. Morgan.
In other news, speaking of Roosevelt, we're going to cut back to a past JKSSM exclusive interview with Roosevelt and our investigative reporter. Go.
One of my goals for the future is to implement a new policy to stop all those damn fingers in my meat. Also, I want to add
Hold on 1 second. I'm sorry, my supervisors are telling me that you might be involved in an affair with your housemate.
Excuse me? I was in the middle of explaining my future for this great country, and you interrupt me with a stupid scandal? How dare you accuse me of cheating? I don't even cheat. I love my wife.
It's on you, but it seems there are many sources that have given some foolproof evidence of you sneaking around with this woman.
And what is this evidence?
Well, the evidence consists of drawings of the incident and one picture where the silhouette looks quite similar to you.
So you're gonna accuse me of cheating on the love of my life based on pictures and drawings? That makes no sense. This is unbelievable. This interview is over. How dare you attack me like this? I cannot stand you damn muckrakers.
Wasn't that an interview to remember? Wasn't it, Kylan?
That's correct. Well, that must be why he lost the election of 1912.
Speaking of the election of 1912, let's take a look back at how and why Roosevelt lost and President Wilson won. The three main candidates in the election were William Taft with the Republican Party, Roosevelt with the Bull Moose Party, and finally Woodrow Wilson with the Democratic Party.
Because the Republican Party's voters were split over Roosevelt and Taft, Woodrow Wilson was able to take the victory by receiving 435 electoral votes and 41% of the entire population. This victory allowed the first Democrat in office in 15 years. Since having a Democrat in office, we've seen the focus shift to more progressive issues. Since Wilson, we've seen an increase in the quality of life for the common man. One of the biggest improvements for the Wilson administration was the implementation of the FTC. With the introduction of the FTC, we've seen corrupt and unscrupulous business practices be reduced, and fair business has been better nurtured.
And don't forget about Wilson's policy of reducing tariffs on imports and the addition of graduated income tax to the Underwood Tariff Bill.
I don't know about you, but this seems pretty progressive to me.
Under Wilson's implementation of the Adamson Act, all employees that worked in interstate commerce and railroad, women and children all received better working conditions. This included 8-hour workdays and overtime pay. Wilson also enacted the Workmen's Compensation Act that aided civil service workers by providing income to employees that were victims of workplace injuries.
And don't forget about the Federal Farm Loan Act, which allowed farmers to receive low-interest loans from the government. With the 2-year sinking of the Lusitania, we would like to give the 128 fallen Americans a moment of silence. Okay, back to the show. With the 2-year anniversary, we would also like to show a clip that our team has made in remembrance of those who have lost their lives.
The Great War originally started after the death of Franz Ferdinand, an Arab Austria. Austria asked Serbia to hand the perpetrator over, but when they refused, war seemed imminent. Germany and the Ottoman Empire joined up with Austria and called themselves the Central Powers. France, Great Britain, and Russia joined Serbia and called themselves the Allies. We decided to stay neutral and keep to ourselves. However, after the tragedy that was the sinking of Lusitania, Americans saw a spike in those who wanted to join the war in Europe. although President Wilson was very adamant about wanting to stay out of the war and keeping a neutral status. This status felt almost impossible to maintain after seeing the Zimmerman telegram and the clearly hostile intentions that Germany had had for America. The act of employing Mexico to attack America if it were to not to join the Central Powers is almost a direct statement of war.
However, through recent events in the past couple of months, our nation has entered the Great War with minimal resistance from the Senate and the House of Representatives. This will be fought with the purpose of protecting democracy. Although in the beginning of the war we had a policy of staying neutral, America felt that we had an obligation to help the Allied powers through selling resources that would help them in their military efforts.
So far now, we have 7 states who have already granted women the right to vote.
Excuse me, Sandra, but do we really need to hear this? I mean, what do women need to vote for anyways? Which corset is the latest fashion trend?
Actually, Kylan, there's been an increase in women employed in our country from 2.6 million in 1880 to 7.8 million in 1910. So ladies around our country deserve the right to vote, especially if it's regarding jobs and politics that protect their rights to their job. Now, before my ignorant co-newscaster can say another degrading comment, let's start off to an interview with Jeanette Rankin to inform us more about this women's movement.
Hi, thanks for having me today.
The pleasure is ours. So do you agree that if women were to ride in the car, their uterus would fall out?
Anyways, what I meant to ask was, how do you see the women's movement improve during recent years?
Well, from 1869, when the National Women's Suffrage Association and American Women's Suffrage Association were first created, we have definitely seen an increase of states granting the right to vote for women, going from 4 to 7 states, like you said earlier. Not only that, but those movements have spread to other states like Washington, California, Arkansas, and etc., making more women from all over our country involved in suffrage.
I'd like to ask a few questions about you, actually. Back in August, you were the first woman to be elected in Congress from the state of Montana. Congrats, by the way. But a lot of us are asking, so what do you do? I mean, the men in the house make you do their laundry when they spill their coffee.
Fantastic question, Carolyn. Actually, I'd like to inform you that I work with the House to pass certain bills. Bills that grant women to vote, provide better schools for children, reduce child labor, promote the rights of women's unions, and provide a liquor prohibition. My colleagues in the different women's movement have also been advocating for these changes as well.
Hold on there, women. Prohibition? Liquor? You're crazy for that. I mean, who would even listen to you guys? States like Massachusetts, New York, and Pennsylvania have completely disregarded this suffrage movement. At this rate, you women are going to be growing beards.
You should be careful about what you say, Colin. Don't forget the women's movement has groups like the Rival Congressional Union, who has a more aggressive approach to advocating for women's rights.
Yes, my colleague Alice Paul, who formed the Rival Congressional Union, has been picketing and organizing mass rally marches. In fact, there have been many suffrage parades since 1910 in places like New York City, despite their refusal to adopt it. We also have the support of Teddy Roosevelt and his Bull Moose Party from 1912. And as of now, over 2 million women who formally endorse this movement.
Amazing, isn't it, Kylan? We wouldn't want women outside our studio picketing against you, Kylan, or even worse, making it seem like you go against former President Teddy Roosevelt. Anyways, for our last question for our interview, what struggles does the women's movement have, and what are the plans for the future?
A struggle, besides dealing with sexist newscasters, we have organizations that are formed to go against movements like the National Women's Suffrage Association. For example, the National Association opposed to women's suffrage was created to oppose women's suffrage. And for our future plans, my good friend Carrie Chapman Catt has proposed our winning plan, where women in states that had presidential suffrage would work on getting federal suffrage amendment, among other things.
Thank you for your interview, Jeanette. We hope to see you soon.
With Woodrow Wilson's recent endorsement by the Democratic Party for women's rights, there's even rumors that he may give women everywhere the right to vote. This isn't Wilson's first contribution to bettering the lives of common American. In 1916, Wilson passed the Addison Act, which reduced work hours to 8 hours a day for railroad and interstate commerce workers, as well as giving employees overtime pay. Wilson also passed the Lafayette-Siemens Act and the Federal Farm Loan Act. These two acts ensured the decent treatment and wages for workers on U.S. margin ships. And the Farm Loan Act provided farmers low-interest loans to farmers. The Keating-Owen Child Labor Act was another act which helped the rights of workers by putting restrictions on child labor.
Along with these progressive reforms, Wilson also established the Federal Reserve in 1913, which provides a system for regulation of the nation's banks, credit, and money supply, along with providing the nation with a safer, more flexible, and more stable monetary and financial system. It is also in charge of supervising and regulating banks, along with other important financial institutions, to ensure the safety and soundness of the nation's banking and financial system and to protect the credit rights of consumers.
Bum, 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 bum. A new segment we're doing today is called Progress Recap. We'll be focusing on recapping how America has progressed.
Now, how can we talk about how America has progressed without first mentioning the progressives?
Who are the progressives?
Well, the progressives are the middle-class Americans who've had it with monopolies, corruption, and social injustices.
Oh yeah, the people who are trying to curb the power of trust, improve capitalism, push for direct primary elections, referendum, and push for recall of elected leaders.
Yep, those people, Sam. How'd you not know that? You're a news reporter, for God's sake.
Wow, that sounds nice. But have the best sandwich makers in the world advanced?
Well, women have found their power and created clubs to fight against oppression, corruption, and poverty, as well as attack child labor, get pensions, push for the right to vote, and push for temperaments and factory reform.
Wow, that sounds like they've been busy and out of the house. Now let's take a moment to look at America's presidents and see how they've helped the American people.
Well, the trust buster, Teddy Roosevelt, instituted the Square Deal, or the 3 C's, control of corpse, consumer protection, and conservation, as well as save 120 million acres of beautiful land for generations to come.
How about Wilson?
Well, he was a man who acted. You can see that in how he got the Wilson Federal Farm Own Act, Lafayette Siemens Act, Adamson Act, highway construction, law against child labor, and workman's comp, all passed.
Great. And Taft?
Well, you could refer to him as a soft Roosevelt. Well, he tried to be a progressive, and he did get tariffs lowered, but I have to say that Wilson did the most for our country.
Hold on now, this isn't a competition.
You're right, never mind. Let's get into the real meat of this conversation.
Are you trying to make a joke right now?
Yes, I am. The Meat Inspection Act of 1906 really helped improve our standards of eatery.
You're right there, Michael. I can't tell you how many times I've taken a bite and tasted human meat. Rat meat and really any type of meat, but damn are they good.
Also, the Pure Food and Drug Act helped protect us from all those other contaminants we've been pumping into our body.
Nice.
Well, this is all we have for today. Good night, America. We'll see you tomorrow.